to say something that I think a lot of people have a hard time getting to, that they don't seem to believe or accept, I guess you could say, and it is, you are not someone else. I put it another way on the subject of the video that I'm doing today, They're Not You, on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Saturday, the 7th of May of 2022. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics page on Facebook, on Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com, on Minds.com, on Parler, or wherever else you happen to be picking me up today. That would include, in case I didn't say as much, Gab and Twitter. Subject for today is They're Not You, and I want to kind of go into this idea that there are a lot of people who will literally interpose themselves into a given way of thinking in order to support other people, and I'll talk some more about that in a little bit here. I wanted to point out that, as you can probably see if you've been watching my videos, I'm in a kind of an odd situation, and it's a little bit difficult for me today, and I'm just having to deal with that as it comes. But I'm going to go ahead and go through my notes very quickly and talk about exactly what it is that we're intending to discuss today. One of the things that makes it so various folks do a bad job of talking about various things is that they have a hard time separating concerns. Let me explain what I mean when I say this. I was watching a podcast I like to pay some attention to the other day, when one of the people displayed pretty perfectly just what I'm considering here. I won't get into who or where, but the group in question, it's a group of people that actually do the podcast, was discussing some folks in a particular subgroup of the population. The individual in question seemed to, like he was being Captain Obvious, by saying he didn't believe what that group apparently counted to be correct and proper. In reality, though, and this was borne out by some of his subsequent comments, what he was attempting to do was to defend by interposing himself onto them, the people in question. That's what he was trying to do. He seemed to be unable to separate himself from them. This is a much larger problem than it might initially appear to be. It's common for people to assume empathy is always a great thing, for example. What those folks will often do, though, is not just put themselves in the place of the people they're intending to support, but in fact, they will all become the type of person who they want to be an undergirding for. The result is they end up falling into the same trap others are already unaware they're in. This causes a sort of a domino effect. And worse, it means the people who are often a very small portion of the world as a whole seem a great deal larger than they actually are. The common result is those folks garner a wider audience for their perspective than they have any right or reason to assume they should attain. At this point, there's often this sort of snowball effect in which many people take up their cause, right or wrong, and rather tenaciously fight for it. I want to be clear. I'm not saying people should attack or berate any such folks. They may be true, or that may be true, but that doesn't mean we should be expected to support or hold what they say to be correct just because they do so. And like I say, we shouldn't attack them, but that doesn't mean we should hold it correct, what they say to be correct. I'm going to say something many have decided is not proper. I'm going to tell you that if you're not harming others, it's okay to be you. I don't care if others hold you to be a problem because you refuse to support folks they believe you ought to be for. By the way, by way of example, I'm sorry to tell you this, but I'm not in support of gay people or transgender folks. I'm just not. That doesn't mean I think they should be castigated or attacked for what they believe, nor even for their practices. I think their practices are wrong. I think what they believe is wrong, but that doesn't mean they should be castigated or attacked for them. We can disagree and be civil and generally kind to one another. I do it with other religious groups. I can do it for them as well. I flatly refuse, though, to interpose myself on them to try to support or defend them. That's where things stand for me, and that's the end of my notes. Look, I get that you feel like people are being done badly by, and I'll tell you something. I think in some instances you're correct. People are being done badly by. But the answer, the way to fix that is not to just try and make yourself into one of those people. That's not the answer. The answer is to be willing to take up their cause, not from a perspective of their rectitude, of their being correct. It is to take up their cause from a perspective, I'm having to kind of look a little hard to see the time today. It is to take up their cause from a perspective of telling other people the way to deal with it is not to attack them in some fashion, whether it's physical, verbal, or whatever. Now, I want you to understand something. There are a lot of people who assume that you're attacking them when what you're actually trying to do is simply give them how you feel about things. Tell them how you feel about things. I'm not saying that you should stop expressing your opinions and so forth. I'm not saying that. I'm saying don't attack people. You're a such and such, or you're a horrible human being, or whatever. I disagree with you. I think you're wrong. Here's why. That's appropriate. That's proper. Do not, on the other hand, decide that it's reasonable to say to those people, though I disagree with you, I believe that I should be attacking you or hurting you in some fashion. But my point is on the other side of that coin. At the same time, if you support somebody, do not assume that the proper way to deal with that is to try to make yourself the person that you're attempting to support. Just don't. That's not a proper thing. Don't do it. And if you do that, you need to recognize now that what you're going to do is actually blow things up. You're going to create a domino effect, and you're going to get a whole bunch of people who are going to step in support, who may really don't support that, but they're unwilling to not support it because they feel like they will be attacked if they don't do so. And if you don't believe that, you need to know, if there's a cancel culture out there that's happened to a lot of folks where they've been told you can't speak or you can't do business with us or whatever, and those individuals have literally been placed in positions where lots of things that they would do as just standard behavior, go to the bank, go to the store, whatever, they're basically told you can't do that because we don't agree with you and you don't agree with us, even though they're not really harming anybody by what they're saying. It's not a matter of harm, it just isn't. So I get that you want to support people. I think that's a lovely thing. I think that it's a wonderful thing. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I want you to remember something. Just because I don't agree with homosexuality and so forth doesn't mean that I'm not in support of those people being treated as human beings. I am, okay? I absolutely am. And your being in support of them doesn't mean you have to be those people. And the most important thing that you need to remember, in my opinion, out of all of this is those people, they are not you. They're not you, and you are not them. And if you allow yourself to be couched in those terms, it isn't some, what's the word I want? It isn't some brave act. It's not some brave act. What you're doing is telling people, I am this thing that I'm really not. And I have one thing to tell you when you do that. Stop it. I get that you want to support them. I'm not telling you don't do that. What I'm telling you is support them even if you don't agree with them, at least in terms of allowing them to be considered human and so forth. but don't necessarily support things in which you do not believe and with which you do not agree. And I'll tell you, part of the reason for that is that there are people out there who are pushing agendas that are trying to use a lot of those individuals to get further agenda items pushed using the expansion of the world of those individuals in the process. That may seem like an odd thing to say, but I truly believe that it is the case. Okay, I need to go ahead and wrap up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, Tom Curtin. Today is Saturday, the 7th of May of 2022. That would be the end of the Sabbath. I believe it's already happened, probably. I'm not certain. I don't know if it's after sundown, but I have a feeling it has. Hope you had a good Sabbath if you are one who adheres to that idea. Tomorrow will be Sunday, the 8th of May of 2022. Got the 7th in my notes. That happens sometimes. But the 8th of May of 2022, that will be the beginning of the Christian week, according to most of us folks who espouse Christianity. Thank you for coming along, whether it was on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there, on Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com, on minds.com, on the Kurt's Religion and Politics group there, on Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you might be happening to see or hear me today. The subject for today has been They're Not You, and tomorrow I'm going to talk on the subject of abortion, and I'm going to talk from a very specific position. I know that it's a very much a hot button issue. I'm not really addressing it from what I consider to be a hot button perspective. I'm trying to address it from a perspective that I consider to be a somewhat common sense one. People will disagree with me. I recognize that. I'd love to hear your opinion where that's concerned. I hope you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you, and hopefully we will see you again on tomorrow's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This podcast was created on Sunday, the 7th of May of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching today's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back tomorrow to check out the next one. Remember, on various platforms, primarily Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub, and the audio podcast, you can subscribe to my content. For the audio podcast, you probably want to use Apple, Google, or Spotify. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. In order to find me on those platforms, you can go to the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub. You can also get to my content on Facebook by finding the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there, minds.com, where you will find me at the Kurt's Religion and Politics group, and Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com as well. You can look there. I post my daily video on various social media sites, really only about 3, Parler, Gab, and Twitter at present. I am at KP Schubert on each of them, and you can find me under them, and you can find the videos under me. You should be able to find my podcasts on Google and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's also on podcasts.kpschubert.com. That's podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. If you're looking for me on various of the podcast sites, you probably want to search Kurt's Religion and Politics, not the Daily Summation. Keep in mind, you can subscribe to my content on various places that I put it. All constructive feedback is welcome. You can like, dislike, add a rumble, or give whatever feedback is available on any of the platforms that you can do such things. You can also add a comment on what I put there. Unless you're advertising or doing something that I believe will harm others, I'll leave your comments out there even if I don't agree with or understand them. I will try to let you know I've seen them when possible and may reply if I feel it's reasonable, appropriate, and possible, of course. Thanks again for viewing this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back again for tomorrow's as well.